Good morning. Close enough. Okay, my name is Brandon. If we haven't met, would love to meet after the gathering. We're in a series in the book of Galatians, coming toward the end of the letter. Galatians was written by a man named Paul, and he was writing to counter some teaching that showed up in this set of churches. The teaching was that to be right with God, to have a relationship with God, to be accepted by God, you needed Jesus. That, of course, was true. But you needed Jesus and circumcision. You needed Jesus and to cut some skin off of your body. You needed Jesus and to follow the law, and that's how you knew. Paul shows up and he just says, "Hey, listen, we're off there." To add to Jesus actually subtracts from him, and so he writes this letter to counter what they were teaching. And today, chapter 5, he gets pretty practical. He gets pretty direct, and so this is how I want to begin. Let me frame it up this way. On Friday, I was doing some sermon writing at 309, the coffee shop. It is the best coffee shop in Georgetown. I wish to offend no one, but that is clearly the case. And so sitting next to me was a guy doing some work on a call, and then this guy walked up. He saw him. Apparently, they hadn't seen each other in years, and so they jump up, "Hey, man, and they go in for the bro hug, but they miss, and it was like that awkward, like, we swung and missed the bro hug, ended up cheek to cheek, and I wanted to jump in and just go, "Hey, guys, it's okay. You don't have to continue that on. That's a little too intimate there." It was like last week we were at this deal. I hadn't seen this guy in a while, and I went to go knuckles, and he did that. And so he just grabbed my hand and just held it and didn't let go. And it was just, that's not how this works, man. Let go, let's go on. But they started talking, hadn't seen each other in years. Apparently one of the guys was still fit. One of the guys, by his admission, got married and had some kids. That was funny, all right? That one was funny. But they start talking about their lives, their families, their careers, and then one of the guys, he says this. He says, "Hey, man, I love what I'm doing for work. I love it. I'm finding a lot of meaning in my work. I'm meeting some great people, and I just love it." And the other guy didn't turn. He just said, "Hey, man, that's the path. That's the way right there." Why would he say, "That's the path. That's the way"? Here's why. We all know this. Broadly speaking, there are two paths to live on. One path toward life and meaning and beauty and harmony and flourishing, what the ancients called the Zoe, the good life. And one path toward destruction and chaos and disorder. A quick glance at cable news and you will know that we do not agree at all on what that good life is or what disorder is, but we all have a vision for what the good life is and what the dysfunctional life is. You have a vision for it yourself. Or you have a vision for the life that you want. It might be marked by money, it might be marked by kids, it might be marked by you fill in the blank, but you've got a vision for the life that you want. And you have a vision for the life you want to avoid. Right? For me, my default, my good life, my vision, it's a life just flourishing acceptance everywhere. The life I want to avoid is a life of rejection. That's my vision for the good life. That's my vision for the life I want to avoid. You have it too. There are two basic paths that we can live on. And Paul is going to say this. He's going to say, man, I agree. I agree. But I have a theological twist. I've got a theological twist to put on it. And Paul's theological twist is going to be this. He's going to say, there are two paths, but here's the deal. There is a path that you are born on. A path that you are born into, a world that you inherit marked by death and disorder and chaos and dysfunction. And that to go from that path to the other path, it takes change. And not just any change, it takes a supernaturally changed heart. The path that you're born on, that's the heart that you and I inherited, is what Paul's going to say. And that if you want to shift gears from one path to another, the one that leads to life and flourishing and beauty and harmony, it takes a supernaturally changed heart. And so here's what I want to do. I want to look at our text under these three headings. An honest look at the human heart, yours and mine. An honest look at the human heart, a vision for a changed heart, and then the power to change. Sound good? An honest look at the human heart, a vision for a changed heart, and the power to change. So look at verse 16. Jump into the top of the text with me. Verse 16, but I say, walk by the Spirit, and you will not gratify the desires of the flesh. For the desires of the flesh are against the Spirit, and the desires of the Spirit are against the flesh, for they are opposed to each other. Okay, let's pause here. What does Paul mean when he says flesh? What's he talking about? Well, the word that he used, sarx, it's the word for flesh, like skin, flesh. What does Paul mean? What is Paul doing when he uses the word flesh? Well, what he's doing is he's using it metaphorically for sinfulness, for that natural, innate, rebellious state in all of us, the part of us that's naturally opposed to God, the part that just lives in conflict, right? Anybody who has ever been around a 3-month-old or a 6-month-old or a 2-year-old knows that you don't have to teach children to say mine. You don't have to teach them to fight with one another. It's the innate, natural state of humanity. There's a great story. I don't know if it's a great story. It's a story about, I'm 2 years older than my younger brother. When he was born, they brought him home from the hospital, and the story goes that I walked right up and just said, take him back. He was encroaching on me being the center of this world, and he must be gone. So why is Paul using this language of the flesh metaphorically for sinful rebellion, brokenness? Why is he doing it? Well, I think there's a couple of reasons, a couple of a theological reason and then a local practical reason. Here's a theological reason. I think he's reflecting the fall. If we go back to Genesis 3, Adam and Eve, the first thing that happens is what? They know that they know, when I do this, that's you guys go and fill me in, okay? When they are naked. They're naked and they're ashamed. They're physically, like their flesh is exposed. They're naked and they're ashamed. I think he's reflecting that in his use, but there's another reason. I think there's something happening here in the book of Galatians and why he's using it. So Galatians is his first letter, the first letter he wrote. And if we think about the context of Galatians, here's one commentator putting it this way, that in Galatians, the image seems, this image of the flesh reflecting sinfulness or rebellion, the image seems to subvert the ideology, the theology of those who are promoting a circumcision of the flesh. Against these teachers who wish to boast in the Galatians, circumcised flesh, Paul produces this counter image of flesh as opposed to the Spirit. See, here's what Paul's doing. He's showing up and he's saying, hey, listen, you think that you need to be circumcised, that you need to destroy your flesh to live. And Paul's saying, hey, you're right. You're right. It's just not the flesh that you're thinking of. It's a different flesh. That there is a flesh that you and I have, Paul's saying, that can destroy body and soul. Which is why he says, do not gratify the desires of the flesh. The word desires, it really became a technical term in Paul's language in the New Testament. It's epithumia. It's a compound word. It means inordinate, over desires, the desires that go beyond the excessive, normal, general desires of life and humanity. To illustrate them, there's the general desire that I like Mexican food, right? I want Mexican food most days. My kids, my wife know that they don't have to convince me to go eat Mexican food. They just have to look at me and say, blue corn, and I grab the keys, I put a smile on my face, we're out the door. It's a general desire for Mexican food. I love it. If you want to go blue corn, I'm in, anytime. But then there's an inordinate, controlling, dominating desire where I can't resist it. I just can't stop. And every day you find me at Blue Corn eating day in and day out because I'm consumed by it. It's no longer a general desire. It's no longer a natural desire. It's become an inordinate, dominant, controlling desire. And what happens to me if I eat Blue Corn 3 times a day? it's not good. It's an inordinate desire that actually ends up destroying my body. There are some hardwired desires in us that are marked by the flesh, that if you feed them, they will destroy you body and soul. What are they? I'm glad you asked. Look at verse 19. Now the works of the flesh are evident: sexual immorality, impurity, sensuality, idolatry, sorcery, enmity, strife, jealousy, fits of anger, rivalries, dissensions, divisions, envy, drunkenness, orgies, and things like these. I warn you, as I warned you before. I warn you, as I warned you before, that those who do such things will not inherit the kingdom of God. Paul's list of works of the flesh, these desires of the flesh that live inside of us, it's a pretty broad list, right? It covers sex outside marriage, to envy, to rage, strife, sorcery. And I think it would be unwise for me to not just pause for a moment and just acknowledge that in this room, not all of us think sex outside marriage is problematic. Not all of us think envy is problematic. That a little jealousy is okay and normal. I would submit to you, though, that you don't actually believe that. That you don't actually, if you take that logic to its end, you don't really believe what you think that you believe, right? Like, none of us in here, I don't think, would say, you know what, my neighborhood Carlson place where I live, man, if we all just sort of swapped husbands and wives around, call it Tuesday night party, you know, if we did that every Tuesday, every Thursday, maybe on Fridays sometimes, you don't want to live in that world. You don't want to live in that world. That is not society you want to live in, is it? Or a little jealousy, a little envy, a little division, dissension. One of my best friends, he lives in Mississippi. He works in big law, and the world that he lives in, it's a cutthroat world. Cutthroat world. Marked by envy. I mean, envy is a value and a virtue in his world. Envy motivates, it drives, it gets you to work harder and longer and harder and longer. Is that a world you want to live in? Is that a society that you want to live in? Is that, when you picture like the culture and the Georgetown you want to live in, is that the one you want to live in? Absolutely not. I just want to submit that you don't actually believe what you think that you believe. That what might feel a little bit normal, taken to its end, is not a world that you want to live in. And I think the key to understanding this text, this little passage right here, it's actually not found in the list. It's found in the phrase, and things like these. Things like these. The word things like these, it's the word homoios. Same. Things similar to this. It's not an exhaustive list. That what Paul was trying to do was to set out a pattern in this list. He was trying to give a pattern of things that destroy body, destroy the soul, and destroy human relationships. That would just rip the fabric of community apart and tear it to shreds. Paul is giving a list that destroys humanity and human relationships, and he gives a grave warning where he repeats it. I warn you, as I warned you before, that those who do these things, that these things, the pattern of things, and the word do, if anybody is all interested, it is a present participle, an ongoing, those who are actively doing such things. That if this is the pattern of your life, if this marks your life, you need to feel Paul's warning. You need to feel the warning. Like you, in this room right now, should feel the warning of Paul. He's writing this afraid some of them are in danger. And it got preserved in the scriptures because we live in danger. And some of us need to feel the danger that Paul felt for them right now. And if you look at this list and you go, yeah, man, I'm not on the list though. Like sorcery, never once. If you look and go, man, I'm not on this list, I don't see myself on this list, You need to see the words and things like these and maybe ask this question. Keeping in mind this list, everything about this list destroys relationships. It destroys community. If you look at your life and everywhere you look, you see destruction, like relational destruction everywhere around you. You look at your family, you look at your work, you look at your friendships, and all you see is carnage. You need to stop and ask why. And maybe, just maybe, you need to feel the weight of Paul's warning. Now, if you are sitting here and you feel targeted, do not worry. Paul will target all of us now. Because there's something else in this passage, in this text, that came just before that will be a warning to all of us. A warning to all of us that we can't get out. When I said it's an honest look at the human heart, yours and mine, I did not mean the human heart out there. I didn't mean what you find on Fox News or on CNN or you name the place. I meant in you and in me. In my own life. Verse 17. This came just before it. The desires of the flesh are against the spirit, and the desires of the spirit are against the flesh. For these are opposed to each other. Why? To keep you from doing the things you want to do. The things you want to do. Paul is an educated man. He knew how to write in the past tense, and he knew how to write in the present tense. Paul could have written the things you wanted to do, the things that once upon a time that your heart found appealing, the things that once upon a time you looked at them and smiled, but now you look at them and frown. He knew how to write in the past tense, and he didn't. He wrote the things that you want to do. Why? What does Paul know about you? What does Paul know about me? What does Paul know about himself that made him write in the present tense the things that you want to do? Here's what Paul knew. He knows that sin tastes sweet. And you and I, we like it. We like it. It tastes good. It's like a fresh strawberry. The natural desires that we are born with, they still live in us. The best illustration I ever heard about this was from a guy named Sinclair Ferguson. He said, imagine you're married for 50 years, and then your spouse passes away, and then a year later you get remarried. You've got 50 years of baggage. Not baggage, he didn't say baggage. You've got 50 years of how you lived together that you are bringing into this new union. You've got an old union and a new union, and you've got a lot of history over here that you're bringing with you that doesn't just go away. It lives in you and it lives in me. The question for us is not, are there inordinate desires in our hearts? The question is, what are they? What is it that we need to see? What is it we need to stop and pause and go, okay, that right there, that's not normal. That's an inordinate epithumia, controlling desire in my heart. What is it? That's the question we need to be asking. The Bible is nothing if not honest about you and about me and the state of our natural hearts. And so, let's look at Paul's vision for a supernaturally changed heart. He's going to say a supernaturally changed heart is two things. One, it's a heart that's walking and bearing. All right, let's start with walking. Back in verse 16, walk by the Spirit, and you will not gratify the desires of the flesh. What does he mean by walk? Walk by the Spirit. What does that mean? Well, walking is actually a broad theme in the Bible. It really goes beginning to end. It goes back to Genesis. The fall happens and God comes down. He walks in the garden. Early in the Old Testament, you've got walking as ongoing activity, ongoing relationship with God. The Psalms and in Proverbs, walking is used of virtue or pride. You can walk in pride or you can walk virtuously. The Gospels, I don't have time to unpack that one. It's all over the place. The New Testament, post-Gospels, gets used, post-Gospels, it gets used 53 times, almost all metaphorically. Almost all metaphorically. A few examples from the New Testament. Whoever follows me will not walk in darkness, that's John 8. Acts 14, that in the past generations, God, allowed the nations to walk in their own ways. Ephesians 4, that I urge you to walk in a manner worthy of the calling to which you've been called. Ephesians 5, walk in love as Christ loved us. That to walk by the Spirit means to walk both, to live both with intimacy, relationship, and obedience. It means to live your life intimately in relationship with God, obedient to God, and in the light. Live in the light as I am light. That's the life that bears fruit. The life that bears fruit is a life that's walked by the Spirit. What kind of fruit? Verse 22. The fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Against such things, there it is again, against such things there is no law. That Paul's writing this list right here to counter the other list. That there's a list that destroys the human soul and destroys human relationships, and there's a list that strengthens the soul and sustains relationships. Against such things, there is no law. Again, this is not intended to be an exhaustive list. It's meant to be a vision for life on the road with God. It's meant to be a vision for what life on the road with God looks like. A picture of a supernaturally changed heart. And so what does it mean that there is no law? Against such things, there is no law. I'll give you this. It's a very tough little phrase to translate or to interpret. Here's what I think is going on. I think that the law, it had a power to restrain, right? The law could point out how you're not to live and to show it to you, and so you go, okay, I don't want to live like that. But here's what it couldn't do. The law couldn't produce anything in you. The law couldn't create anything in you. The law, the best analogy I've heard, the law is more like an MRI machine than chemo or a treatment, right? That the law could diagnose the tumor, but it couldn't kill the tumor or it couldn't treat the cancer. All it can do is expose what's in there. It can show you what's in there, it can reveal what's in you, versus the Spirit, that the Spirit goes into you like a seed, it goes into the ground, and the Spirit produces fruit in you as a seed going to the ground produces fruits, which paints Paul's vision for the changed heart and the changed life for us. Paul's vision is change that comes from the inside out, not the outside in. That when Paul pictures what does a supernaturally changed heart looks like, it looks like change that happens from the inside out. It's not change where you just cut off a few inches of skin and flesh, body, the part that can't touch the heart. It's change that happens when you cut the flesh out of the heart and you have a new heart, a redeemed heart, where the Spirit comes in and produces something supernatural in you and through you. A supernaturally changed heart is a heart that changed from the inside out, not the outside in. And if you're here and you feel like I'm 47, I'm 47, but you're with me, you're 47, and you're just going, I've been trying. Like I've tried my whole life. I've been trying to get it in order. My entire life I've been fighting and wrestling. It might just be that you've been trying outside in your entire life, thinking that some religious conformity could produce in you what you long to see, when it will never work that way. It will never work that way. That a supernaturally changed heart is a heart that's changed from the inside out, where God comes and says, I'm coming into that heart and I'm changing that heart. It's inside out, not outside in. And so how does this happen? Where does the power for this kind of change come from? Look at verse 24. The power to change. And those who belong to Christ Jesus have crucified the flesh with its passions and desires. Those who belong to Christ Jesus have crucified the flesh with its passions and desires. What does it mean to belong to Jesus? Well, I mentioned a few minutes ago, this is Paul's first letter, earliest letter that he ever wrote. We're almost certain of that. And if you trace Paul's letters forward, you keep following forward, you see some progression and some development in the language that Paul uses in the, not new theology, but the theological development even that goes on in Paul in his writings. And so here, what starts out as belong to Christ gets turned into union with Christ, that you become in Christ. It becomes Paul's language for what happens to a Christian when you come together, when your life collides with Christ, you become united to Christ by the Spirit. And when you're united to Christ, you have crucified the flesh. It's an interesting little phrase. One commentary, they put it this way, and I don't fully understand them, but I'm going to do my best to explain it. It says the past tense of the verb have crucified indicates that this is in the past, that with the thought here being that of Christians' participation in the crucifixion of Christ, that you have shared in the sufferings of Christ. You have shared in his sufferings, that when you turn to Christ, your flesh was crucified with Christ on the cross. When his life is brought into yours, the desires of your flesh get crucified. So how do you know? How do you know it's happened? Like, how do you look at your life and go, okay, I hear you. I want that to be me. I want that to be, what's that like? Experientially, what's that like? I'd like to try to illustrate that. My daughter, Isley, has been trying to get me to watch a movie, Pride and Prejudice, forever. And by forever, I think I roughly mean forever. I'm pretty resistant. I'm not a 1700s kind of moviegoer guy. It's not really what I do. It's not my thing. I'm not into period pieces. Absolutely nothing wrong with them. I'm for them. It's just not my deal. And so I fought it for quite some time. If you know the show Pride and Prejudice, it's set in the 1700s. It's a complex love story between the rich Mr. Darcy and Elizabeth, a middle class family, or seeming to be. And on last Thursday, maybe Wednesday, I don't know, last week sometime, she ropes me in. We got nothing going on. What are we doing tonight, Dad? Nothing. Excellent. You want to watch a movie? Trapped me. Fell for it. Sit down. I'm watching the movie with her. I actually loved the movie. She's now trying to get me to watch Little Women, and it's like, listen, you're not going to actually make me a woman, all right? So just throttle back, little girl. But it's a complex story with complex character development, especially in Mr. Darcy. Mr. Darcy is an incredibly rich man who lives in a beautiful castle who does not walk anywhere. Elizabeth, she likes to walk. She likes the cold air. Midway through the movie, Mr. Darcy makes his love for her known, and she rejects him. Mr. Darcy doesn't back down. He doesn't back off. He continues slowly pursuing. And as the drama unfolds, there's a scene at the very end where it's cold. She's outside. She looks over, and here comes Mr. Darcy walking in the cold air. And he walks up to her, and he says to her, "If your feelings are where they were last April, tell me so at once. My affections and wishes have not changed, but one word from you will silence me forever. However, if your feelings have changed, I would have to tell you, you have bewitched me body and soul. I love you. Then I never wish to be parted from you from this day on." Here's where the power to change comes from. It comes from seeing Jesus, the King of heaven, the wealthiest person to ever walk the earth, come as a commoner to walk as a servant, looking at you and saying, "You have bewitched me body and soul. I love you. I never wish to be parted from you from this day on. But I have to. I have to be crucified on the cross for you, but do not worry that it's not where the story ends. 3 days later, I will walk out of the grave so that you can look at me and say, you have bewitched me body and soul. I love you." The power to change comes from when the gospel melts your heart, transforms you from the inside out. That's where the power to change comes from. You can't create it. You can't force it. You can't muster it. It comes from seeing Jesus the way that Jesus sees you. Someone for whom I wish to never be apart from. To never depart from this day on. So how then? How do we sustain change? How do we live this out? How do we continue on the path that Jesus puts us on? The answer to that is found in our text, and it's found in the way the text is bookended and in what's in the middle of it. It's bookended with, you shall love your neighbor as yourself, but if you bite and devour one another, watch out that you're not consumed by one another. And it finishes with, let us not become conceited, provoking one another. It's distinctly communal. It's a distinctly communal text. And inside the text, you know what you find? You find only plural yous. Plurals. There's no singular yous in here. Walk by the Spirit. The word's plural. You all together walk together. The key to understanding how to live this text is to see that you cannot do it alone. You don't stay on the path, the road to Jesus alone. You drift from it alone. You stay together. That is how you live this text. The degree to which the text is about you is because you are part of the us, that the text is not primarily about you, it's primarily about us. It's a distinctly, aggressively communal text. That the ancient Zoe, the ancient good life, it's not found alone, it's found in community. That's why Galatians 5:25, if we live, the word live, Zoe. If we live by the Spirit, let us keep in step with the Spirit. It's found in the let us together as one, keep in step together. Reminding one another that Jesus looks at each other and says, I love you. Why? Oh man, because I do. But why? Oh, he just does. The together is so that you and I together as one can make grace taste sweeter than sin. And that in comparison, that fresh strawberry would taste like a sour grape. That's why we fight with one another and for one another. And sometimes our fighting with one another is how we fight for one another. Now we lean in and we stay in and we press in and we don't run when it gets hard. The road walking with God is hard. And so we stay in and we stay together and we lean in. We wrestle together with a Bible in the middle of us. Letting the Bible challenge me and correct me, and let the Bible challenge you and correct you. And we do it together. We wrestle together. We ask hard questions of one another and what drives and motivates and stirs us. And we answer honestly with the courage to be known. The courage to say, maybe I don't have it all right. Maybe I need you to help me see what I don't see. Maybe my motivations look a lot more like works of the flesh than I realize. Maybe I need you to help me see that what I'm really, really good at is taking that mirror and just turning it around. And I need your help to go, no, flip it back around, Brandon. Look at you. Look at you. I see that desire for what it is. Even if you can't see it, let me help you. Let me speak honestly with courage and some conviction into your life. We fight with one another, and our fighting with one another can be fighting for one another. We lean in with courage and we don't run when it gets hard. That is the good life. That is the path. That is the way. Help us. Help us. Oh, Father, help us be that kind of people. It'll take your unbelievable mercy and grace. But we have it, and we have it together. Let's pray.